so this video is going to be an example grammar lesson, and this is kind of intermediate level grammar. And I'm not going to tell you too much about this lesson until we get started and when we're doing the lesson, because I want you to kind of get to know and experience this lesson before we think about the language that it's teaching and the structure of the lesson. But this lesson is related to meaning, use, and form. These are three aspects of language. Form being the grammar, and then meaning and use being two other aspects that we usually deal with first. Okay, so let's just get started because I just want you to experience this lesson straight away. So we're going to start with a quiz. This is like a guessing game. This is a nice way of getting pulling students into the lesson, getting their attention, getting them involved, getting them guessing. So let's do this. This book was written by J.K. Rowling. Do you know? Okay. Get some guesses, people shouting. Okay, the answer is Harry Potter. So if you guessed correctly, well done. This song was written by Psy. Okay, well, I'm sure you know the answer. The answer is Gangnam Style. This writing system was invented by King Sejong. Okay, again, very easy. If you're Korean, you can guess. The answer is Hangul. Okay, so notice that I'm giving quite easy hints and quizzes here, because the point of this is just to introduce the language, but the focus is not on the language, the focus is on what it means and the meaning and the use, right? So this Korean ship was built in 1590. Can you guess? Okay, turtle ship, Gobukson, right. Okay, now getting a little bit more difficult now. So we've done some easy ones. This character is played by Rowan Atkinson. Any guesses? Rowan Atkinson is a famous British comedian and actor, and he plays a very famous character who is quite popular in Korea also. Any guesses? The answer is Mr. Bean. Okay, so his real name is Rowan Atkinson. He's a British comedian. He's been around for a long time, and he's actually really, really smart, and now he's obviously very rich as well. Okay, let's continue with the quiz. This story was written by Mary Shelley. Any ideas? This is like a classic book. Some people say this is the beginning of science fiction literature. Any guesses? Kind of horror? Okay, the answer is Frankenstein. Okay, so the original story of Frankenstein was written by Mary Shelley. Okay, so we've done the introduction quiz. I have some more questions for you now. Okay, see if you can answer these questions. Who was The Hobbit written by? Okay, famous author. It wasn't J.K. Rowling. Do you know? The answer is J.R.R. Tolkien. Okay, so Tolkien is the writer of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. Who was the original Star Wars directed by? Okay, the original movies. Not Steven Spielberg. The answer is George Lucas. Okay, and who was the Terminator played by in the movie? Who was the actor? Arnold Schwarzenegger, well done. Okay, this could be a little bit difficult for some of the younger members of the class. So obviously you could change this song to a different one. Who was Smells Like Teen Spirit sung by? This was a very famous rock song in the 1990s. Some of my students know this when I do this with adults. The answer is Nirvana. In which country was the hamburger invented? Okay, many people guess America. That's not true. Okay, the answer is Germany. So the German city of Hamburg is where the hamburger was first made. Okay, and I think this is the final question on this slide. When was the MP3 file invented? So can you guess the year that the MP3 file was invented? And I'll take the closest guess to be correct. Okay, 19... Any guesses? Okay, so you can have some different guesses. You can tell higher, lower, and so on. The answer is 1989. All the way back in 1989 was the first time the MP3 file was made. Obviously, it didn't become popular for many, many years later. Okay, so that's like an example quiz. Now, the point of everything we've done so far is modeling and scaffolding and introducing the target language, but notice that none of the focus has been on the language. We haven't explicitly talked about the language at all. And that's something that I'm always trying to push with grammar teaching, is you don't always need to explain language and explicitly focus on the language, right? Try to introduce and model and give examples and practice in a way that's focused on the meaning and usage, the context of use, okay? And keep students' attention on the kind of situations where we use this language. You don't have to start a grammar lesson with an explicit grammar explanation, okay? Now, what is the grammar? Okay, we'll answer that in a moment. Okay, so we just did a quiz. Now, I had some quiz questions for you, and the point of that is to kind of scaffold this idea of a quiz. Now, what I do in the class when I'm teaching and I use this activity, now I ask the students to write 5 quiz questions that they're going to quiz their group, okay? Now, they can use their smartphone to do this. You know, they can do some research on Wikipedia or something like that. And I've given some example sentences here, so please use these sentences or very, very similar to these sentences. Who was book written by? Who was movie directed by? Who was character played by? Who is this song composed by? And so on. Okay, so you can ask students to please use those kind of questions in there. Okay, so you give about 5 or 10 minutes, let students write their questions. Of course, they need to know the answers as well. And then you put them into groups and they can quiz their group. And this is quite a fun, you know, it's something quite fun for students to do. They can, you know, they can use like Korean movies or Korean songs or whatever kind of artists or movies they like and actors and things like that. Okay, so we do this quiz in groups, and then usually what I do to finish off is I ask each group to choose one question to quiz the class. So we quiz the whole class, and that's a nice way of kind of rounding off the activity. So the activity goes from the teacher modeling and introducing with the teacher's quiz, and then the students prepare and they do the quiz, and then they quiz back to the whole class. That has a nice kind of roundabout way of coming back to the whole class again. Okay, so there's the quiz. Now, what is the grammar point of this? Now, you probably know the answer is passive voice. Okay, but as I said, I wouldn't explicitly explain that for the students, not in the beginning of the lesson anyway. I might mention it when we're doing the quiz. Yeah, so all of the examples that we've used so far in the beginning quiz and the quiz that I did and the students quiz, all of these are passive voice, right? So here's an extra tip for you, and this is kind of a famous common tip. I didn't create this. If you can add "by zombies" to the end of a lesson, to the end of a sentence, sorry, then it is probably passive voice. Okay, so to check if a sentence is passive voice, see if you can add "by zombies." Okay, so there is my kind of explicit hint for the language. Now we have like a final checking quiz. Now this is the form focus. So at the beginning I mentioned meaning, use and form. What we've done is we've started with meaning. The students did the quiz and quizzed their partners. That was use. And now we're on to the form, okay? So to check students have learned the form through all of the examples and scaffolding that we've done, here is like a form checking quiz, okay? Now, you don't need to tell the students this is a form checking quiz. That's the the teacher's concepts to understand. Okay, so Harry ate 6 shrimp at dinner. Is this active or passive? Remember, passive we can put by zombies. Okay, well, we can't put by zombies on this sentence, so this is an active sentence. Let's go to the next one. 2 cakes have been bought today by zombies. Okay, so that's passive. Sue changed the flat tire. This is active. The race was finished in record time by zombies. So that's passive. The house will be cleaned every Saturday by zombies. The application for a new job has been faxed by zombies. The teacher always answers the students' questions. This is active. And the whole town was destroyed by zombies. Okay, so this quiz is just to finish off and just to check students understand the difference between active and passive. Of course, this quiz could be on a worksheet, or you could do the quiz on the PPT to start, and then you could go into some more form focus. For example, you could have some newspaper articles and have students finding passive sentences in newspaper articles, for example. But that was just a quick example lesson. I just wanted to give you an idea about how you can teach grammar in a way that focuses on meaning. It's inductive, it's implicit. So it's the opposite of being explicit, deductive, explaining, and all those kind of things. This is kind of more communicative way of teaching. So I hope that gave you some good ideas about teaching grammar. And when you're teaching grammar, think about focusing on meaning and use first before you focus on form, especially for high-level students, okay? Yeah, so I hope that was interesting. Thank you very much.